today we're going to start reviewing for your final. Every day I'm going to just kind of give you a set of questions. It's just going to be a random selection of questions. And then we're just going to kind of go through them. So I want you to take a little bit of time and work through these problems that you have in front of you. There's 13 of them today. Let's go work through these. So they're not in any particular order. They're just kind of randomly selected there. And we're just going to kind of go through them. So take about 15, 20 minutes. It may take you about 20 minutes. But to work through these 13 and then come back and we will finish working through them. Okay, so let's look at this first one here. It's the cube root of 324, a to the 27th power, b to the 8th. Okay, so here, remember we want to find a perfect cube in here. So we want to find a perfect cube. So 324, what is a perfect cube? 8 is a perfect cube, right? 2 times 2 times 2. So 324 divided by 8, that doesn't go evenly. What is another perfect? 27, so 324 divided by 27 is a perfect cube. So it goes evenly right there. So 324 is going to be the cube root of 27 times the cube root of 12. Okay. What about this a to the 27th power? So a to the 27th divided by 3, that goes evenly, right? But the b does not go evenly. So how many would go evenly in there? So that would be cube root of b to the 6th power, and then how many would be left over here? Would be the second. So we could do the same thing. So the cube root of 27 is 3. A to the 27 over 3, so that'll be a to the 9th. And b, same thing here, 6 divided by 3, that'll be a b squared. And then underneath the cube root, you'll have the cube root of 12, no more a's, and then b squared. Okay, remember your complex numbers are, we've got an I, we have the imaginary number with it. So here when I simplify this, it'll be a -7 plus a 2i, plus a 6i minus an 11 plus a 15i. Combine your real numbers. So -7 minus a 11 is a -18. 2i plus a 6i plus a 15i. So that's 8i plus a 15i, which is a 23i. Okay, factoring here, so 64x cubed plus a 125. So if I wanted to factor that, I would, this is a cube here, so 64 is a cube. So 64 is 4x, all of that cubed, and 25 is a 5 cubed. So remember, it's going to be one of those, so 4x plus a 5. Remember, it's SOPs, so SOPs over here. So the square, so it's going to be 4x, all of that squared. The opposite sign, so it's a negative. The product of the two, so 4x times a 5. Plus sign always, and then the square of the last. So this will be a 4x plus a 5 times a 16x squared minus a 20x plus a 25. Okay, so we want to divide this. So remember, when we divide, we flip and change that to multiplication. So this is going to be 6x squared minus a 23x plus a 7, all over an 8x cubed minus a 28x squared times 2x squared minus a 10x, all over 1 minus a 9x squared. Okay, so, sorry, I'll do this. Okay, And I'm going to take each one of these and I'm going to factor. So I've got a 6x squared minus a 23x plus a 7 here. So nothing can factor out. So this is a trinomial, so we're going to multiply. So this will be x squared minus a 23x. 6 times 7 is a 42. So we're going to figure out what multiplies together to give me a 42 and adds together to give me a negative 23. So it's going to be two negatives, right? Two negatives would have to multiply together to give you that. So let's think about 42 for a second. So 42 divided by 12, does that go evenly? No. 42 divided by 2, that's a 21. So 21 and a 2 right there, that would add together to give you 23. So that'll be a negative 21 and a negative 2. But what did you multiply by? Multiply by 6, so each one of those needs to be divided by 6. So 21 over a 6 right there can reduce, so 3 can go into both of those, so that's going to be a 7 over a 2. And then this one, 2 over 6 can reduce to a 1/3. So then remember, you bring your denominators up. So this will be 2x minus a 7 times a 3x minus a 1. Oops, okay. So this numerator up here will be 2x minus a 7 times 3x minus a 1. All right. So what about here? We've got a 8x cubed minus a 28x squared. So the greatest common factor here would be a 4x squared, and you would be left with a 2x minus a 7. Okay. Same thing with that 2x squared minus a 10x there, so factor out a 2 and an x, so you'll be left with x minus a 5. One minus a 9x squared, so that can factor to 1 minus a 3x times 1 plus a 3x. Okay, so now those are my factorings over here. So now we simplify the common factors in the top, so 2x minus 7, 2x minus 7. This 3x minus 1 and that 1 minus a 3x, that's going to give you a negative 1 there. And then this 2x can go in here too, and you'll be left with an x down here. So the top is going to be a negative times an x minus a 5 all over a 2x times 1 plus a 3x. Okay. All right, let's look at number 5 here. So if I wanted to solve x minus 4 squared is equal to 28, then we can factor it, okay? We could multiply this out, move the 28 over, try to factor it, or we know that this is all squared, so we can go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So when we take the square root of an x minus 4 squared, that's going to leave me with an x minus 4. And then the square root of a 28 is plus and a minus the square root of 4 times square root of 7, right? So this will be x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 2 square roots of 7. So you could get a decimal, then move that 4 over, so this will be 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 7. Okay. This is an absolute value, so when you solve an absolute value, you have to get the absolute value by itself. So the first thing I want to do here is add 1 to both sides, so you'll have 2 absolute value of 13 minus a 6x is equal to a 22. You still don't have the absolute value by itself, so you're going to divide both sides by a 2. So you're going to have the absolute value of 13 minus a 6x is equal to an 11. So now it's equal to a positive, so remember you're going to have 2 equations. So 13 minus a 6x is equal to a negative 11, and 13 minus a 6x is equal to a positive 11. So then you'll solve both of these equations. So you'll subtract 13 on both sides here. So we get a negative 6x is going to be equal to a negative 24. So x is going to be a positive 4. Subtract your 13 here, so you'll get a negative 6x is equal to a negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 6, so that's x is going to be equal to a 1/3. Okay. This one we want to simplify by subtracting here, so we have to get a common denominator. So the common denominator just is those two things multiplied by each other. Okay, so this one I would have to, what I multiplied over here, I have to multiply the top by. This one, what I multiplied by, I have to multiply the top by that one as well. So 5x times x is a 5x squared. 5x times 2 is a 10x. Minus x squared. Minus times a minus is a positive 2x. This is all over x plus 2 times x minus of 2. Combine your like terms, so 5x squared minus an x squared is a 4x squared, and then plus a 12x. Okay. All right, for number 8 here, I want to solve this one. I don't believe it will factor, so 4 times 9 is a 36, so what multiplies together to give you 36 and adds together to give you negative 8. Don't think that happens, so we can use the quadratic formula. So remember, we'll use the A, we'll use the B, and we will use your C here. So remember, quadratic formula is negative times your B plus or minus b squared, so negative 8 squared, minus 4 times a, which is a 4, times a c, which is a 9. All over a 2 times your a, which is a 4. So this will be 8 plus or minus 64. 4 times 4 is a 16. 16 times 9 is a negative 144. All over 2 times 4, which is an 8. So we'll have 8 plus or minus, which is going to be square root of a negative 80, all over an 8 here. So 80 is going to be 4 times 20. So, or what, 16 times 5, right? 80 is, 16 times 5. So this is actually going to be 8 plus or minus 4i square roots of 5 all over an 8. Can factor out a 4 out of there, so you'll be left with 2 plus or minus an I square roots of 5 all over an 8. So this is going to be 2 plus or minus I square roots of 5 over 2. Okay. All right, let's look at number 9 here. So this is the square root of x plus 9 is equal to negative 3 minus an x. Okay, so I want to get rid of the square root. So to get rid of the square root, I'm going to square both sides. So when I square this side, I'm going to be left with x plus a 9. But when I square this one's going to be negative 3 minus x times negative 3 minus an x. So negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 3. Negative 3 times a negative x is a positive 3x. Positive 3x and a positive x squared. Move everything over, combine your like terms, so we'll have 9 plus a 6x plus an x squared. Subtract your 9, so that's going to go away. Subtract your x's, so you're going to be left with 0 is equal to 5x plus an x squared. So I'm going to rearrange this a little bit, so it's x squared plus 5x is equal to 0. So factor out your x. So x plus 5 is equal to 0. So x is 0, and x is going to be equal to a negative 5. So if you plug in a 0 here, that would be not an answer, because 0, they would give you just a negative 3, and we can't have that. Okay. What about number 10 here? So same thing here, I need to isolate that cube root here, so I'm going to add 11 to both sides. So I'm going to have a 2 times the cube root of 3x plus a 1 is equal to negative 3 plus an 11 is an 8. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to have the cube root of 3x plus a 1 is equal to 4. Okay, so now instead of over here I squared both sides, over here I'm going to cube both sides. So when I do that, I'm going to be left with 3x plus a 1 is equal to 4 cubed, which is a 64. And then it's just a linear equation. So subtract 1. So we'll have 3x is equal to 63. And then I'm going to divide by a 3. So x is going to be equal to 21. Okay, number 11 is a cross multiplication here. So it's like a proportion. So we're going to say 2x times that 4x minus a 3 is equal to 5 times your x squared. So then we'll simplify. So 2x times 4x is a 8x squared. 2x times a negative 3 is a negative 6x. And this will be a 5x squared. Okay, move this over. So we'll subtract 5x squared. So 8x squared minus a 5x squared is a 3x squared minus a 6x. You can factor out a 3 here, 3 and an x, so you'll be left with x minus a 2. So 3x is equal to 0, and then x minus a 2 is equal to a 0. So x will be 0, and x will be a 2. Can't have a 0 right there because 0 squared gives you a 0 in the bottom. So your only answer there is going to be equal to a 2. Okay. All right, so let's look at number 12 here. So this is a log function. So to solve this log function, it's 1 log on one side. So we're going to rewrite it as an exponential. So this is going to be 2 raised to the 6th power is going to be equal to what's inside here. So 4x minus a 20. Okay, so 2 raised to the 6th power is an 84, I think. So 2 raised to the 6th power. 64. So that's a 64 is equal to a 4x minus a 20. We will then solve. So it's just a linear equation. So this is going to be an 84 is equal to 4x. Divide both sides by 4. So x here is going to be equal to a 21. Remember, it can't be a negative inside here, so always make sure that you check your answer. Okay, last one for today, and then we'll do the same thing tomorrow. So 9. So these are exponentials, so if I could rewrite these as the same base, then I could set my exponents equal to each other. So remember, 9 is the same thing as saying 3 squared, right? 2x minus a 15. 1 over 27 is the same thing as saying 3 to the negative 3rd power is equal to, or times a 4x there. So now we can remove that. So we're going to have 2 times 2x minus a 15 is equal to negative 3 times a 4x. So we can set the exponents equal to each other. So 2 times 2 gives you a 4x. 2 times a negative 15 is a negative 30. Negative 3 times a 4 is a negative 12x. And so this is just a linear equation, so I'm going to subtract my 4x. on both sides here. So I'm going to get a negative 30 is equal to a negative 16x. And I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 16. And that can't reduce, or that can reduce, I'm sorry, but it can't go evenly. So negative 30 over 16 is a positive 30 over 16. 2 can go into both of those, so that's going to be a 15 over a 8. Okay. Alright, so that's part of it. Same thing tomorrow, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put questions up there, so save these questions, go through these questions. These are very good study guides. So if you have any questions about anything, let me know. Y'all have a good day.